Hey guys, Victor here, and today we're going to be doing another retro deck profile for the September 2011 format. And today's focus is going to be on a fan favorite rogue deck known as Batteryman, which, during the early game it tries to set up its resources and slowly outgrind its opponent, but then once you get to like the mid to late game, you can very quickly just overwhelm your opponent with giant monsters with like just huge amounts of attack to quickly finish them off. So, with that out of the way, let's just jump straight into the deck profile. Now, when it comes to Batteryman, this deck is extremely monster heavy, which is something that you don't really expect from like a rogue deck, Typically, when you're playing against a rogue deck, you'd see it have like a bunch of back row, bunch of spell cards, and then just try and slowly wither away. But this deck can play surprisingly quickly. So with that, we're going to be starting off with 3 Batteryman Micro Cell. This is going to be one of your main play starters of the deck, and unfortunately it's a flip effect, so that means you're going to have to wait a turn, and if you play against something like Agents and they just straight out turbo the Hyperion, you're going to be having a bad time. But basically what it does, when this card is flipped, you can special summon one level 4 lower Batteryman monster from your deck except itself, and then if this card, after it's been flipped face up, is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you get to draw 1 card. So it sets up any potential Xyz or synchro plays for your following turn, all the while drawing cards to help you set up for your engine. And which is really easy to accomplish because it has 100 defense, so anytime it'll be attacked, it's literally a guarantee that it will be destroyed. So yeah, you definitely play 3 of this, even though it's, the weakest, I guess. It's the weakest play starter in a format where flip effects just are not that great. And then after that, we're going to be playing 3 Batteryman AAA. This is honestly like a really underrated card because what it does is when this card is normal summoned or flip face up, you can special summon another Batteryman AAA from either your hand or your graveyard. So this is literally just to give you instant access to rank 4 plays, just because, it just happens to be level 4, and it pretty much always just gets another copy of itself. And yeah, not much to say. It's just a good card to be able to put some pressure on your opponent through Xyz monsters like Utopia or like Steals from Roach. And yeah, it's solid. And then you can also get like cheeky with it, like if you have an effect veiler or something already in your hand or on the field, or like in your graveyard with like an extender with a reborn or whatever. Now you can go Batteryman AAA, summon AAA, get the veiler on field somehow, go for Trish, and sometimes a Trish can just win the game on its own. So yeah, another really solid card. Then we're going to be playing 3 Batteryman Charger. So this card, much like Microcell with special summons for the deck when it's normal summoned, you can special summon 1 Batteryman monster except Batteryman Charger from your hand or deck. And then this card, in addition to that, also gains 300 attack and defense for each other type monster you control. And that counts itself. So the moment it hits the field, it basically becomes 2100, 1500 defense, which is really threatening in this modern metagame just because, it's a big monster that's very easy to summon, which pretty much puts like instant pressure on your opponent to try and out it as quickly as possible because things will get out of hand really quickly. Then after that, we're playing 1 defensive card in Batteryman D. This is basically the dupe frog of the deck because while this card is face up on the field, they can only attack Batteryman D. But unlike dupe frog, we're not playing it in multiples because it is a little bit trickier to get out, and you don't really want to rely on this card to like help you advance your game plan. So just 1 Batteryman D is more than enough. Next, we're going to be playing 2 Batteryman Fuel Cells. So this card is fantastic because what it does is if you have 2 or more face-up Batteryman monsters, which is very easy to do thanks to cards like AAA and Microcell, you can special summon this card from your hand, and then you can tribute 1 Batteryman monster, except for itself, to select 1 card your opponent controls and return it to the hand. So this is great at picking apart back row, and if you want to like try to push more, consistently. But like it really starts to shine when you're bouncing back extra deck monsters, just because like cards like Stardust Dragon, Utopia, anything really that might become like a threat, Scrap Dragon, all these other amazing extra deck monsters, your opponent does have to invest a lot of resources to typically bring them out, and just by straight up losing them thanks to cards such as Batteryman Fuel Cell, a lot of the times like they just lose a lot of steam very quickly. So this card is very easily able to turn the game into your favor just by doing something as simple as that. Then we're also playing 1 Batteryman Industrial Strength. This is going to be like your main boss monster, as you're able to special summon it by removing from play 2 Batteryman monsters from your graveyard, but you don't really need more than 1 because you will, if you do end up playing more than 1, it does tend to brick, so I wouldn't really recommend it, but you can if you want. And what it does is once per turn, you can remove from play 1 Thunder monster from your graveyard to destroy 1 monster and 1 spell or trap on the field. So, much like Fuel Cell, this is going to be your main method of removal for, pesky cards. And since priority is still a thing, this will be able to successfully activate every single time unless your opponent has like a solemn warning or something. So, yeah, this is another fantastic card, but like you don't really, want to break on this, which is why I'm only playing just one copy. Then after that, because we play cards such as Batteryman Industrial Strength, which ends up banishing our, Batteryman cards, the tour guide engine actually really helps a lot in getting back our key resources, regardless of whatever we happen to banish. If we banish a AAA, that's a free level 4 fodder. If we banish microcell, we can just put it in defense, build up our walls, whatever. But just being able to have recursion for those banished monsters that we have off of Industrial Strength can go a long way helping with your grind game. And also with that, we're playing the one Sangan just because, if you play Tour Guide, you have to play Sangan just because its search is literally everything. And even if you don't search, making Levier, Leviathan Dragon, always solid. After that, we're playing 2 Thunder King Rayos. This deck is predominantly light, and the monsters aren't the biggest or the strongest or most impactful, so something like Thunder King Rayo does help a lot with your grind game and helping you stun out your opponents. Then we're playing some hand traps, being the 2 Effect Veiler and the 2 Maxi, just good generic cards. Then after that, one honest, every monster that you'd pretty much want to play in this deck is light. Whether every single Batteryman, your Thunder Kings, things of that nature are in fact light. So honest will help you get over pesky monsters a lot more easily, just because honest is honest and it's limited for a reason during this format. So yeah, just another fantastic card. And then for the final monster we're playing, since we're playing the Tour Guide and the Sangan, you have to include the BLS. Much like every other deck in this format, if you're playing any form of darks and lights, you just include BLS because of top deck BLS, or just being able to drop this card pretty much whenever. It's just game changing on its own. So yeah, with that, that's the monster lineup, and now we can finally move on to the spell portion of the deck. Now when it comes to the spells, we're going to be starting off with 3 Battery Charger. This is basically an in-themed monster reborn for your Batteryman cards, because you just pay 500 life points and then you special summon 1 monster from your graveyard that has Batteryman in its card game. Very simple to use. It's a really, just great recursion tool, because I'm pretty sure it gets everything, and that includes Industrial Strength, because Industrial Strength just needs to be special summoned first. And then after that, we're playing 2 Pot of Duality. So while this deck may seem like it special summons a lot, your early game turns are going to be really slow because you rely heavily on cards like Microcell to actually function. So you're more than okay with playing Pot of Duality in order to, just make sure that you can actually set up your plays for the following turns. And then sure, sometimes it conflicts, but that's mainly into mid to late game, where you want to be special summoning as often as possible. But even so, the early game value that Pot of Duality gives you is just invaluable. And then we're also going to be playing 1 Pot of Avarice. This deck fills up the graveyard incredibly fast, whether it's through tour guides, the Batteryman themselves, whatever. So just being able to shuffle them back, get your resources, draw 2 is huge. And then in addition to the Battery Chargers, we're playing the Monster Reborn. If Battery Charger's good, Reborn's even better because it has no restrictions and it doesn't cost you any life. We're also playing the 1 Dark Hole, the 1 Mystical Space Typhoon, and the 1 Heavy Storm. And that finishes up our spell lineup, and I'll just include the trap cards because the trap count is honestly just really low. We're playing 2 Solemn Warnings, 1 Solemn Judgment, 1 Torrential Tribute, and 1 Starlight Road. So I opted to play Starlight Road over something like Trap Dust just because this deck does like to swarm the field a lot, so that means you're going to be really weak to mass removal if you're not able to finish your opponent off a game, which can happen because there are a lot of cards in this format that are popular, just like Battle Fader, Tragodia, Gores, Mirror Force, Torrential, all these types of things that just, prevent you from finishing off your opponent. And so because of that, this deck does become really weak to mass removal, especially to the cards like I mentioned previously, such as Mirror Force and Torrential Tribute. So just being able to have a Starlight Road set and protect yourself and then bring out a Stardust Dragon for even further protection can sometimes straight up win you the game. But if you don't want to play this, that's perfectly okay. You can play something like Trap Dust Shoot or, just anything else that you might fancy. Compulse, Bottomless, all solid cards. But with that, that's the main deck, 40 cards like always, and now we can move on to the extra deck. Now the extra deck isn't all that used, but there still are some pretty important cards that you should be including. And we're going to be starting off with Chimera Fortress Dragon. While it's not the most important card, you do have the space for it, so I just decided to include it because you never know when you're going to play against machines. And then for the Xyz monsters, we have Levier, easily the most important one just because it helps you get back any level 4 or lower that's banished, which you will be doing sometimes thanks to cards such as Industrial Strength and BLS. Then you have the 1 number 17 Leviathan Dragon, just a good generic beat stick. And you also have the number 39 Utopia and the Steel Swarm Roach, good generic rank 4s. The only other one that we have is Zenmeister, which isn't all that great. And then that's it for the Xyz monsters. And then for Synchros, we're going to be starting off with Formula Synchron. This is actually one of the few decks that can play Formula Synchron, just because we have Microcell, which is level 1, and if it somehow survives, and you still want the draw, you can just normal summon your effect veilers and then go into Formula Synchro, draw 1, and then from there you can typically Synchro into like a level 6. So yeah, Formula Synchron, great in this deck. Then you also have, your generic stuff, so you have the Armory Arm, the Hyper Librarian, Ally Justice Cataster, all cards that are really good, but you don't really make too often because you just don't really have the opportunity to Synchro summon all that much, if I'm being honest. Then you have the Orient Dragon, the Bionic Dragon of the Ice Barrier, Black Rose Dragon, Stardust Dragon. If you play Starlight Road, you have to play Stardust Dragon, but even without the Starlight Road, it's still really important to have a Stardust in there just in case, because you never know when you may have to make it. Then you have the Scrap Dragon, and lastly, we're going to finish it off with Trishula Dragon of the Ice Barrier. And with that, that's the Batteryman deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!